Okay, we are recording now.
Shut my blinds.
Yeah, that might help.
Yeah. It's a little glaring.
I thought that was a halo, Tony.
Yeah, that is Calvert right behind me, Mike. So, your alma mater there, buddy.
Yes, sir. Go Calvert High.
Hang on one sec. Dave, where'd you graduate from? High school.
Okay, we are streaming on Facebook Live, and so we're good to go.
Nice background, Hunter.
I feel bad that I'm going to remove it, but you know, I like looking at it.
Roger. Nice.
Good to see it though.
Down in my chair's low, Shane. You're this high.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm down in the.
You can adjust those. Tony, I know you're new, but you can adjust those chairs.
I flipped it over. I got the screwdriver, the hammer. I pushed it. So
Maybe Deanna will help you out.
have to call me, put an order in.
My Surface is sitting on the autobiography of Giuseppe Garibaldi. So
There's a good paisan.
yeah, the Italian patriot.
Nice.
My daughter Shayla always wondered what that book was good for.
I hit you with the pro tip so you could get the spacing right in the video, the composition of your video. So good job with that. I like it.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
to the republic for
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Commissioner Kirschner, do you have a prayer for us this morning?
I do. I think we'll concentrate today on all the caretakers. So if you join me for a moment here. Love you, God. We place into your care all our doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers. Give them the courage and strength of mind and body. Keep them safe from harm. May they know our deep gratitude for all that they're doing to heal and help those affected with coronavirus. May we know your protection and peace. Bless them in these challenging days and bless their families. And as always, we ask you to watch in a special way those who are protecting our freedoms and their families. We ask all this through your Son. Amen.
Amen. All right, roll call.
Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
Commissioner Paradisa,
Here.
Commissioner Kirschner.
Here.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve the digital audio video Zoom recording of the previous board session from Thursday, April 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Yes.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Paradisa,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes. All right. Administrator report. Stacy, what do you got for us today?
Just a couple things, after the orders from the governor, both, like Monday and Tuesday. I've been looking into masks, some disinfectants, some wipes. We've got masks coming. They're supposed to be here by May 8th. We've got disinfectant wipes coming, should be here by May 10th. Working with Mark Zimmerman to get us some of the disinfectant. He had a contact, so I'm going to work with him and get that. And we've got some hand sanitizer here, and we've got some more coming. I just don't have a date on that yet. I guess the only other thing, as far as I know, and I guess you guys can talk about this, that we're still staying status quo. Offices are still going to be closed on Fridays, and nothing's really changing that I could tell just by conversations that I've had with some of the elected officials. So I think that's it.
Yeah, so there's 2 points there, Stacy. One, the county offices are closed on Friday, and then 2, will the lobbies be open to the public? And currently, the other 4 days of the week, right? So currently, that's not happening. So there's two
Not at the RTA building.
at the RTA building. Shane, we could talk a little bit about that. But just so it's not confusing, so in the county, all the offices are closed on Friday. Currently, we, from the commissioner's office, are working from home, and we're open Monday through Thursday. So the next question is, will people be able to come to the commissioner's office and do business? And so we'll leave that up to Shane here to give that report. So you're saying no, we're where we're at.
Yeah.
Going forward, and I think that is where we're at. I just want to make that distinction if I could.
Yeah. I think there's three issues. One, the Friday issue is a budget issue, right? We're doing that for cost saving measure. So until we have line of sight that our finances have recovered, I think that's probably the new normal for a while. The second issue is, are we allowing the public into our buildings? And we have some leeway to do that at this point, given the governor's orders. But as far as we can tell, with the majority of county offices, according to the elected officials, all business is getting transacted, and in some cases, better. And so if there isn't a need to open a building until we have better data, better science, those offices will remain closed. I would expect that to be the RTA and limited access to the rest of the county buildings for the foreseeable future. The Justice Center, I think that they have people who have to come in for a lot of different reasons. They don't have a choice. They are going to require to be masked to come in for protection of the employees. And so, to our ability, in order to be able to establish some reopening, we need the necessary PPE, which is masks, disinfectants, hand wipes, and the like. So, busy trying to procure those. We do have a supply, but it's not enough. And so until we have enough supplies on hand, I don't think we can really be in a position to change our current position.
Yeah, I think the guidance is always to call ahead if you can, to do transactions either over the internet or by phone if you can. And in most cases, too, if you really need to go person to person, that you call ahead and try to get some type of appointment or some type of arrangement made. This is we obviously are trying to do everything that we can do for the personal protection. But there is some personal responsibility here too. If you feel you may be a person at risk, or if you feel uncomfortable, we will find a way to make certain your transaction can happen. Just call ahead and try to make some arrangements.
Good.
Good. Anything else, Stacy?
Nope,
That's it?
that's it.
That's all you got for us? Well,
I got old business, but we'll we'll get there.
getting the old business. All right, Michael, you have anything to add this morning?
I think that we're going to have some discussion, if we will, about this shared work situation that we talked about with Carol Kern. I don't know if Carol's on today or not. She thought she might be. Jimmy, if she is on, you can unmute her. But if not, I'll let Stacy handle some of that.
Yeah, and I did ask Aaron from Clemens Nelson to be on the line or available today, and it looks like he is. So he could help me at least better explain it. I don't know if you want to talk about that now or.
Let's just take it up in new business. Is that all right?
Yes.
Mike, did you want to make a mention of the donation of PPE that we received?
Yeah, that's probably for Tony that you're talking about the national machinery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Tony is more involved in that. So
Okay.
if it's okay, I'll defer to him.
Tony,
Yeah, yes, so we, the county and the city received 4,000 masks from National Machinery and Andrew Calnow. They were delivered yesterday. We much needed. Jimmy did a nice job of coverage, and we appreciate that. And the masks are being distributed throughout the city and throughout the county. So we want to acknowledge that. Do you have a couple comments? Are we at that point, Shane?
Sure.
Commissioner reports. Want to give everybody an update on the Chamber of Commerce search. The public, I think, is aware that there is a bed tax in the county. That bed tax funds was the old Visitors Bureau. It's now under the brand of Destination Seneca County. The Chamber of Commerce has a contract between the commissioners and the chamber to manage that money and that service. With Mr. Detweiler retiring, I hope you're doing well, John. The chamber is in a search for a new executive director. We three commissioners made it very clear to the chamber that the contract for managing the bed tax, we have some concerns with that, and we would like to revisit that. The chamber board understands that everything's kind of on hold right now, but the person that replaces John Detweiler, it's going to be very important that he or she understands that this contract as it stands is currently, a big part of their job. We've been assured as commissioners that that message will be conveyed. Just to give you an update, as the time of this meeting, there have been eight applications for the executive director job for the Seneca County Chamber Visitors Bureau. The task force that's established of the leadership of the chamber is to meet next Friday, the 8th of May. So they'll meet on the 8th to determine if they have a qualified pool of candidates or not. At this point, all the names are confidential. They will then report at the full board meeting on May 13th their recommendations. And assuming that everything would go forward, then this task force search committee would narrow this down to 2 or 3 applicants. At that point, we commissioners would be invited in. They would bring those 2 or 3 applicants into Tiffin, move around and introduce them to various stakeholders. We, of course, would be part of that process. And then at that point, with the final poll, we could make our suggestions, recommendations, ask questions. So that's kind of the process. Any questions from either one of you, Mike or Shane, on that at this point? Sorry, Mike, can't hear you.
There we go.
Thank
On mute. Going back to the mask quickly, I just want to make sure that for a point of clarification.
Okay.
Again, thank you, National Machinery and Andrew. But so there were a total of 4,000, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and 2,000 of those are going to the city, is that also right?
Yes.
And then the other 2,000 are being dispersed between Astoria and Seneca County?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. And Mr. Cownow was very, he made it known that he wanted those masks to go out to first responders in all the villages, Fostoria, all throughout the county. And John Spar is in charge of that.
and those are a higher level type of masks. I mean, they're not the disposable, they're the,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mike, those are medical surgical 2-ply masks. They're nice.
reusable.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you good?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. Shane, one more question as we just kind of wrap up the bed tax conversation. The state of Ohio has extended tax payments, they're waiving penalties and interest, and have, as the federal government has, allowed till July 15th to pay any state tax liability. We were asked, the commissioners were asked if that applied to the bed tax. Spoke with our prosecutor, Derek. Derek feels no, this makes sense, but I went ahead and asked because someone asked us that the sales tax the bed tax is collected at the time someone stays there. So they have the money, and so therefore they should be able to take that money and pay it on time and not commingle it, kind of thing. So I was considering recommending extending the bed tax under the same guidelines as the state of Ohio, waiving penalties and interest, but that really doesn't make any sense for the reasons I just described. So, but I just wanted everybody to know that that question was asked, and that's the answer. That's my position.
But in theory, Tony, I mean, sales tax is collected at the time of sale as well, right?
Right, and so it's very similar
So,
to
I
a
mean,
sales tax. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I get Derek's answer, but I don't see much distinction between the two.
Well, yeah, I don't think sales tax that's not exempt from the penalties and interest, Mike. That's the difference.
Okay, well, what is exempt exactly? I'm sorry.
Okay, I can read it. It's Ohio individual income tax, school district income tax, pass-through entity, and fiduciary income tax.
I got you. So it's not stuff that's been collected. It's stuff that people
Right.
will. Okay, I got it.
Okay. That's all I have, Shane.
Okay, thanks, Tony. So we did have an election. Congratulations, Tony. I think you squeaked by.
Yeah, thanks, Shane.
And I just want to say I thank everyone who voted for me. It was very heartwarming to win Seneca County and have that support. So, onward. I have another 7 months here to very controversial time with the COVID and the budget issues that we have. So we have a lot of work to do. And so I look forward to filling out at least the next 7 months of my term here. But I appreciate everybody's support and, continue work. Jimmy, can you unmute Mike Ditto?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning,
Hey,
Mike.
I just want to get it in the record. I hear there's a new Ditto in the world.
Yes, there is.
Can you give us
Um,
the full name, the weight, and the birth date?
Absolutely. So I have this is my fourth child, my daughter, Claire Ruth Ditto, born 2 full weeks early at 5:30 in the morning on Tuesday, Election Day. So that was a little chaotic, as you might imagine, but she's a beauty, and we're very excited to welcome her to the family. 7 pounds, 14 ounces, 20 inches long.
Wow.
So the election wasn't interesting enough for you, huh? You had to add
Correct,
some
yeah.
drama. Okay.
That's right. Absolutely. That's how we work here in the Ditto household. But no, we're very, very thankful, very blessed.
You might want to turn off that Ditto machine.
Yeah, that's right.
It could be number 5. Yeah,
That's exactly right. You get clear?
it's good.
Congratulations to your wife and you. And
Thank you.
We're happy to put that in the record. Corona
Appreciate
Claire.
that. That's right, Corona. Yeah. Somebody said, have you narrowed the names down to Corona and COVID? And neither were on the table for the record. No, thank you, Commissioner Thomas, and all of you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Awesome. We still continue to have children in need. May is foster care month. I don't know if you have that, Jimmy. If you have it, you can share it. But we are proclaiming May foster care month. And so we want to make sure that people are still providing foster care. And there are 18 children in foster care in Seneca County. And more than 54 in Seneca County placed in kinship relationships. So we always appreciate the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles who step up and play a vital role. We have 11 certified foster families in Seneca County committed to providing temporary homes for children. And they've dedicated their lives to this. And it's really important to us and to Job and Family Services to make sure this vital service continues. So May will be foster care month, and Ohioans across the state who step up and provide this kind of transitional home situation for children are just invaluable to the continuation of care as it relates to children and their families. And with school being out of session, it's even more critical that they have these nurturing family relationships. So kudos to everyone who's providing the foster care, and please reach out to Job and Family Services if you have an interest in being a foster care family. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate anybody who does that. So there's the proclamation. Look at Jimmy, man in the chair.
Yeah. Thanks, Jimmy.
All right. Anything else before we go on? New business. We want to talk about our old business. We want to talk about a couple things we got on here. We've got budget.
Yep. I have a few requested changes to the resolution that we passed last week. I sent each of you a copy with the ones that were highlighted. Some of them were, I'll just give our line, for example. The equipment line was trying to reduce it by $19.87. Well, I didn't realize that was a 2019 expense, so I need to take that back off there. Some of the other ones that have gotten reduced was they had purchase orders, or actually bills, in the system being processed. It must have been like right after I had ran my report to create the 50%. So you'll see some of the supply lines had to change a little bit. See what else was on here. And I am asking to, we initially in our miscellaneous line, which includes county purchasing supplies and our contract services. This is the line we kind of use for general, all county supplies. Originally I had taken half of the supplies out of there because usually it's like paper and stuff we buy out of there. But I'm asking you to take that back out so I can actually open up a purchase order that's just for COVID. Use that $4,989.25 that I had initially reduced to be half supplies. I can put that on its own separate purchase order, leaving it in. So I have some money for supplies. Same thing with contract services. That's the line we pay like Buckeye IT services and some all county contract expenses. So I was reducing that by 20,000. If I could leave that 20,000 in the line, then I could open up a purchase order specifically for COVID for that 20 amount. So the total changes with those two is $53,562.35. I'll probably asking for a little more in supplies just because of the large quantity we're looking at getting in masks. But I figured this would at least get me started. And maybe next week I'll put in a request for additional supplies. Because right now John's been paying for some of the cleaning supplies, some of the stuff that we're getting out of his regular supply line, which we're still coding it as COVID costs. But it would be easier if we could open it separately in its own purchase order and get that taken care of that way. So that's kind of my old business. The new business or the replacement resolution, the title just changes. Basically, we would be replacing the resolution 20-94, the reduction of annual appropriations. So that would be my request for old business. If you have any
Okay,
questions.
I'll motion that we pass that. Do I have a second? Mike? Discussion. Okay, again, I appreciate everyone working with us on this. As soon as we have line of sight to what the budget's going to look like, we'll have another conversation. But the data is kind of slow coming in, and as we anticipated, there would be a substantial lag in our knowledge. So, look forward to more conversations on budgets for the rest of this year. You guys have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Roll call.
Commissioner Kirschner,
Yes.
Commissioner Paradiso,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes. All right, other new business.
Old business. We had in our budget at the end of the year last year for 2020, Job and Family Services had asked us to basically advance them money to purchase a couple vehicles. They weren't going to do it until this year. And, this kind of all started happening and that was kind of put on hold. Well, with, Job and Family Services, they're doing a lot of work from home, travel, the couple cars they have, they're working, but they're having issues with. So we did put in our initial budget, 30,000 for a couple cars. And she had asked me the other day if we would still be interested in doing that. The idea they would be paying us back over a 5-year period for these vehicles. And I just wanted to, I knew we had it set aside, but just with some of the things going on, I wanted to ask, but I do know she would like to do that just because of the vehicles having some mechanical issues. She's getting them to work and they're making it work. So.
I'll move that we continue with that appropriation. Can I get a second?
So moved. Second.
All right, discussion.
Commissioner Kirschner. No.
Yeah, so this is money that's not coming out. I mean, it's getting advanced out of the general fund. It'll get paid back. Obviously, we want people in safe vehicles. I'd also say that, we have a county car that, we can throw into the effort if necessary. It's not leaving the parking lot.
Yeah.
And also, I guess it's a good time to point out that, we'll have a number of expenses like these that seem strange, that we will invariably do because they're either grant funded or supported in other ways. So I think at some point in the near future, we should have the conversation on the purchase agreement we signed on the land at the airport, and maybe have Brad in to talk to us about that. The good news is that we received $30,000 from the FAA, and so we'll be able to use those funds to support the airport operations. And so we may be able to get to a net, zero position over a 24-month cycle. So, I guess, are the other two of you interested in having Brad come on and kind of explain that transaction and how we want to spend that 30,000?
I think I'm okay with it. I would like that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Stacy, if you could invite him, and when we have line of sight to that transaction, because I think we need to be really careful in explaining that to our constituents, that it's grant funded, and we've got these line items from the FAA that support the airport, and we need to make sure that people understand where that money comes from.
Yeah, so that's two issues. That's the purchase of the land and the 30,000.
You're right. Right.
Yeah. And those two are new on top of our ongoing
Right.
150,000 a year we get from the FAA. Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Same weld, Mike, different buckets.
That's right.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor for the vehicle. No more discussion. Roll call, Nikki.
Commissioner Kirschner,
Yes.
Commissioner Paradiso,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes. Any other old business, Stace?
No, just to tack on the car thing, the engineer, since he has taken one of the general fund employees from tax map to help the general fund in his reduction, he had asked if he could have a car for that employee, because she's going to be doing some inventory and different things for Mark and his side of the bucket. And so he asked if he could have the train. He's going to take care of the maintenance, gas on it. I mean, like you said, they were just going to kind of sit here anyway. So he's going to, give the general fund a little bit of a lease payment on top of kind of taking care of it for us. So we can help him and he can help us. It's appreciated. So just wanted to let everybody know that. So if they see them driving the terrain.
Yeah, Mark's been awesome. Yeah.
It seems like we give out a lot of thank yous, and we do, and we mean it, and that's because a lot of people are really helping out and stepping up. We really appreciate it, and Mark's absolutely one of them. Yeah. So.
All right, new business. Been trying to get there.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael.
Okay, I have a supplemental appropriation to.
Hey, Stacy, do you want to put Aaron on first and go
Yeah,
through
we can
that?
talk about that. Yeah, sorry.
We pay him by the minute, I think.
Talk fast, Aaron.
Aaron.
Is he there? There he is.
Aaron.
I can hear you.
Can you sign? Can't hear you.
No.
All right, we'll come back to Aaron. Go ahead, Stace.
Okay.
Well,
So
Carol,
yeah,
maybe.
the supplemental appropriation for our unemployment line. We kind of figured this was coming. Beginning of the year, we put in 8,000 for unemployment because it seems every year we've been pretty good at not having that problem. So we brought it down to 8,000 this year. We used to put 25, 50,000 in it before, but we've been doing pretty good. Obviously with the COVID, it's going to start going back up. So we've already spent 3,200 of that. So, you know, we're down to about 4,700. So we're asking to put an additional 50,000 in the unemployment expense line. And obviously if we don't use it, that'll go back into the general fund. All non-general fund accounts, they pay for their unemployment separately. So this is just for the general fund. So do you want me to continue with the others?
Yeah,
or-
go ahead, and we'll knock them out. And
Okay. I have the resolution authorizing a fund advance repayment from the Wolf Creek Ditch Fund to the general fund. So they're repaying $169,735.31.
that's good.
I have a resolution accepting the bid and authorizing a contract with Transportation Equipment Sales Corporation for two 8-passenger for wheelchair vans on behalf of the Seneca County Opportunity Center. The total amount was $144,400. Looks like they did trade-ins of two of their older vans for doesn't look like much, 1,300. So, and then I have resolution authorizing Shane Thomas, president of the board, to sign the 2021 workers' compensation group retrospective rating plan agreement between Seneca County and the County Commissioners Association of Ohio.
I'll sign it, but I'm not going to read that.
This is what gave us our, you know, checks back this year. So I think we should stay in that program. That's all I have.
All right, I'll move that we accept those pieces of new business. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. I guess the only thing I'd say, it looks like we probably have another $130,000 coming back from Wolf Creek, which will come back over the next 4 years. For those of you who don't know, largest ditching project in the history of Seneca County. It took us 50 years to get it done, and with Mike and Holly's leadership, we were able to complete that in the last year or so. And it was completed just in time for the heavy rains of 2019 that now seem like a distant memory, but certainly impact our farmers. And it was exactly the right time. That, with the combination of the Ballville Bridge coming out, really helped those farmers in that watershed. So we were happy to advance that money, but we're just as happy to get it back.
Right.
All right. Other discussion? Roll call, Nikki.
Commissioner Kirschner,
Yes.
Commissioner Paradiso,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes. All right. Aaron, you want to try? Carol, are you on? Do we have Carol on, Jimmy?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll let Aaron, who won't bill us for this since we can't hear him.
We can see you, Aaron, so be good.
Mike, you want to talk a little bit about the job share?
Sure. I had a conversation with Carol Kern, and she's been very informative about the Shared Work Ohio and the benefits of the Shared Work Ohio program. So I'm not going to act like I know what I'm talking about. I'll let Carol take over and kind of explain what it is and then what options we might have as a county. Carol, cheers.
Okay, under the Shared Work Ohio program, the county offices are reducing their hours by 20%. So that 20%, they would receive a Shared Work Ohio payment that's based on that percentage of reduction. It's not based on income. If they receive any payment of shared work, they also will receive the $600 payment that's the additional, that's valid through July 25th. So a county office would need to submit a plan that they want to reduce their hours by the 20%. Once that plan is approved, they would have to submit weekly time, submit the hours, and the individuals would also have to submit a weekly claim for that. But my understanding is submitting the Shared Work Ohio claim is easier than the regular unemployment system. So in essence, the employees who aren't going to be working that Friday may make more per week with that additional 600 at least through the end of July.
So let me, just to clarify a couple of points, I want to make certain that I understand, and maybe we can get Aaron to shake his head. But as far as I understand it, it can be done on an individual elected official's office basis. In other words, the county itself doesn't have to declare that the entire county is under a shared work program. It can be done with individual electeds and department heads. Is that right?
Yeah, any employer, I know Arnold Machine is currently using it, and they have different divisions under different reduction of hours. So any employer, you have to have at least 2 employees on the Shared Work Ohio plan, but it doesn't have to be an entire place of employment.
Okay. And the second question is then we do still share in the cost, we being the county, share in the cost of that unemployment?
My understanding is 50%. I don't know that for certain, but from what I've heard, it would be 50%. I'm still trying to get a definitive answer on that.
Thank you.
But also add that payment would be, I say that payment for the shared work would be a lot lower though than regular unemployment would be. For example, if a person were to receive $400 in unemployment, with their 20% reduction in hours, they receive 20% of that 400 or only $80 per week.
Yeah, but however, at this point with the reduced hours that we've implemented, there are no unemployment claims, and therefore there is no liability on our part for payment of unemployment claims. So this would be an additional
Most
cost.
likely they would. Yeah, most likely they wouldn't be eligible because they're still working 32 hours a week. Their gross pay for the 32 hours would probably exceed the weekly benefit amount.
Yeah, and what I understood from Aaron is we have to develop a plan and file an application to be able to do the shared work program.
Well, that's why I asked that question, Stacy. I don't know if the we means the county or if the we means individual electeds and individual department heads.
Well, I think we should, if this was something you would consider, I think it would be good for us to develop at least a template or maybe get some from another county. I'm not finding a lot of counties doing this yet, but then some of them haven't reduced their hours yet. But I know with the unions, their collective bargaining, because this is not in their current union contracts, that it would have to be negotiated anyway. So, some of the things I was discussing with Aaron. So,
Can you all hear me?
oh,
Hey,
Sorry about that.
Stacy, can you introduce who Aaron is so that people who are watching know
Yeah.
what his role is and what his relationship is? We don't want people to think it's Aaron Montz or something. So.
right. Aaron Weary from Clemens Nelson. He has been with us a couple years now. Clemens Nelson has been with us, 30 years. So he's been a trusted resource for me.
And so we pay them a retainer to guide us in human resource issues.
Yes.
And we've had that relationship for a long time. And It's been valuable as we've contemplated these budget changes to understand what the impact is on the employee.
Shane, your audio is going crazy here. I'm going to mute you for a moment, and I'm going to bring you back in. Nope. Okay, try again.
Go ahead and have Aaron go.
Okay, sorry about the tech issues on my side. I'm a little, I know the basis for me calling in was on the shared work program, but rather than go through a dissertation, I'm just kind of curious, if you have specific questions, or if you want the dissertation, I'm happy to. It just kind of depends on what information you need, basically.
Well, I think that this is the genesis of this questioning, Aaron, is that one of the electeds suggested that in some other counties, they were utilizing the shared work program, or that there's the possibility that some employees may apply for unemployment for the one day because of the 20% cutback. So the question is, what are the odds that these people would be eligible for unemployment being cut back 20%? And, could they get it under any circumstance other than the Shared Work Ohio program?
Okay, so let's kind of take this in order. So an employee is only eligible for unemployment under a shared work program if the employer has a shared work program plan approved and on file with ODJFS. Okay, so in order for an employee to receive any monies, there has to be an approved program on file. So the short version on that is, if they were to file for unemployment, citing shared work, and ODJFS goes to look and there's no file or plan on file with them, the way that it's supposed to work is they're not supposed to get anything for that. Okay. Now, you have the option as the various employers within the county, various appointing authorities, to have shared work programs for what they call units, essentially groups of similarly situated employees with the same number of hour reductions being applied to the same groups. But the key there is the employer has to have filed for the plan, have the plan approved for the groups, or what they're calling units of employees. If you go through and do that with ODJFS, then essentially what happens is those employees under the plan get whatever percentage of their weekly benefit amount that they would be entitled to. They get the percentage of their hours cut of that weekly benefit amount. So for ease of math, if an employee has a $100 weekly benefit amount that they would be entitled to if they were unemployed, and you cut their hours by 20%, they would essentially get $20. Now, I'm sorry.
Plus the 600.
Plus, yes, that's what they would get, and then they would get under the CARES Act from the federal government. They would get the FPUC monies, the $600 a week. The question right now that's out there is, under the CARES Act, the federal government has provided to states that want to participate monies to cover up to 100% of what they call short-term compensation plans. In Ohio, it's the Shared Work Ohio plan. But we don't know that those monies are going to matriculate their way down to the local governments, the counties, and different political subdivisions. Right now, the only thing we know for certain is that 50% of that cost of unemployment is covered. It's like I was telling Stacy the other day, I think the conservative approach would be to say, for now, you would be on the hook for 50% of whatever the employee gets through this program. So again, if they get $20 right now, the federal government through the states is certainly picking up 10 of those $20. The county would be on the hook for the other 10 until we get some guidance. We're still waiting to hear back from the Department of Labor as to whether or not local governments essentially are going to be getting the full 100% also covered under these short-term compensation plans. But the short version is that is a plan you can enter. but the employer has to do it. The employees don't have an entitlement to it absent the plan being in place and approved.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, if an employee without the Shared Work Ohio program would apply for unemployment because they are only working 80% of what their hours used to be, they would not be entitled if they filed individually for unemployment.
Correct. The at the 20% reduction, they are unlikely. They're not going to be able to hit what they would have to hit to get any kind of partial unemployment. Absent the shared work plan, an employee would have to be eligible under traditional unemployment principles.
Stacy, help me with my memory, but I think the question that was asked by one of the electeds, or the statement that was made, was that some folks were going to be applying for unemployment based on 80% work week.
They were attempting to, what I've, just the few I've asked, I talked to the auditor's office a bit, that they were just trying to do it and not falsifying a document, but basically saying they were laid off, and that's not necessarily the case. So I think some were trying to submit it because they heard of the shared work program, but without us having an approved program, those were being either denied by the department head or by them themselves, the ODJFS themselves. From what
I just don't want any misinformation out there for the employees, because the question was asked, and it sounded as though it was almost a certain thing that people were going to apply without the shared work program, and the odds are very long that they wouldn't receive any benefit and be spinning their wheels.
So I have a question for Aaron. So Aaron, this Commissioner Kirschner asked the question, can an elected have a shared work program within their department without the commissioners adopting one for the county? I'm sensing from you that the commissioners would have to adopt this first.
I don't believe so. I think an individual appointing authority could do that. I think the question becomes whether or not it can essentially be funded or paid for. That's where I think the commissioners would have to get involved. Because if we're talking about a budget needing to be cut by X, and the shared work program, if there is a cost associated with it, causes the individual budget to run short, and they'd have to come back for money. I think it's more of a practical it's a practical question rather than an ability question. I think an individual appointing authority within the county could have a shared work program for a unit within their appointing authority without having to get commissioners essentially permission or granting it per se. But the question then becomes, since there is the possibility of additional cost, whether or not they'd have to come back and get more monies approved. If essentially they can do it within their existing budget, I don't know that they would have to come in and get the commissioners to say, yes, we authorize it.
Okay.
I think it makes sense for us to have a consistent policy across all county offices. I think you'd probably agree with that, Aaron.
Yes, I did.
What is the downside for adopting a policy?
It's really the biggest possible downsides are obviously, number one, the cost. With that being uncertain, if we are cutting 20% and it's a 20% cut on hours, and there's the potential liability hanging out there on the unemployment cost, there's that. The second aspect of it, I think, that is a potential negative is there are some pretty tight requirements on whichever employer enters into one of these plans. There are weekly record keeping requirements that have to be maintained with Job and Family Services at the state level. You have to maintain the plan. You have to enter into it for a fixed period of time, that if you wanted to terminate early, essentially you have to go to ODJFS to let them know why and that you're doing it. the way I read the regulations and the rules, that JFS isn't going to stand in the way of somebody doing it, but it's a step that would have to be taken in order to do it. It's not going to end before the 52-week plan that you would enter into it for, unless you take that affirmative step to go and do it. So there are some record keeping requirements that are on the part, unlike traditional unemployment where it's the employee's responsibility to maintain accurate information. Under a shared work program, it's the employer's responsibility to maintain the accurate representation that the plan is being followed pursuant to the terms of the plan. And then lastly, it's just the application process. Having the right information and things like that, I think is probably the least of the concerns, because it doesn't read like it's too onerous of a process to go through, but it is a process. It's, not zero effort, essentially.
And if we have a plan in place, our individual elected officials wouldn't have to utilize it. It would just be one more tool. Is that correct? There's no obligation
Sure.
to use it?
No, there is no obligation.
And as far as collective bargaining agreements, it would be up to that elected to take it to that official to take it to their collective bargaining unit and ask them if they want to participate. And if they want to participate, they would have to ratify that into their contract.
Correct. You would have to participate in bargaining on that for folks subject to a collective bargaining agreement. The way it's written, it essentially is something that you can do for non-bargaining employees. As the employer, the collective bargaining process throws a little bit of a wrinkle into it for them. Essentially, the unions would have to agree. From a practical standpoint, I don't see any of them not, but that is absolutely something that would have to occur through the bargaining process.
Aaron, did I hear you say 52 weeks?
That's the way it's contemplated. It's I don't think, like I said, I don't think you would have to go the full 52, but the way I'm understanding it and the way I'm reading it is that it's the plan can last for 52 weeks. I think you could enter into the agreement with ODJFS to do it shorter, but it reads to me like the default would be for a year.
And then, so it's possible to have a shared work program that would extend past July 25th. And that's the date the $600 a week subsidy from the CARES Act goes away, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we could have a shared work program that went beyond that, but in practicality, without the $600 bogey, I'm not sure what they get. They would.
It would be that small. That would be that 20% of the weekly benefit amount.
Yeah,
That's what employees would receive.
Thank you.
Yeah. The 600 would run through the end of the current period of time that is provided for in the CARES Act, which expires at the end of July.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
Good.
So Mike, do you want to, how do you want to handle this? Do you want to ask them to draft a plan, or what were you thinking about?
Well, I think that on our next elected call, we ought to have the conversation and get a consensus there. I think, the question was brought up by one of the electeds. So maybe we can continue on with that call. I want to give kudos out. Aaron did a nice job explaining it. Carol Kern spent a lot of time explaining it as well. And I want to thank her for that explanation. And as she said, and a little note here, anybody, anytime can apply for unemployment, whether it's under the Shared Work Ohio or not. Now the odds of getting that unemployment because you're cut back 20% are probably pretty low, but everybody has that opportunity. It's their right.
Yeah, I'm good with that, Shane. Our next call, it would be Tuesday, is it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we could have a call Tuesday, and if necessary, we could act a week from today.
Good.
I think.
Sounds like a plan. Like it.
Okay. Good.
All right. Any other new business? Thank you, Aaron. Thank you.
I would like to. I think probably either Audrey or Amy are on the phone. I sat in on a retail conference yesterday, downtown business, all retail businesses, not just downtown, I think. And they had some pretty good insights that we could maybe unmute Audrey or Amy, whichever one might be on the phone, and kind of
Sure.
give us some.
Yeah, can you hear me, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, if there's anything in particular you were wanting me to share, I'd be happy to. Let's see. So basically, we just right now are trying to touch base with businesses. They have a lot of questions about, what reopening will look like, especially, depending on what the type of business is. And we're working with each of them to try to, provide information and best practices about what the ways that they're able to open up are. Yes, we had a call yesterday, one with all businesses, and just a reminder that weekly business forum is happening weekly at 10 a.m. and any businesses in Seneca County are welcome to join that call. It's a place for them to just, vent and share their concerns and challenges they're facing, as well as for us to provide, resources and information and answer questions that they might have. Then we also had a meeting last week and this week for restaurants, as well, as they definitely have a lot of questions about what reopening will look like for them. And, every business has, various different levels of comfort and concern and just different circumstances. So I think, we had the discussion with Mike about, what requirements work for different businesses. It's all over the board, depending on the size of the businesses, how many employees they have, sort of what the nature of their business is. It's definitely all over the board on what works best for all of them. So we're just, again, trying to be a good resource for them and communicate out all the information that we have. Mike, is there anything else, kind of any other areas you wanted me to cover from that topic?
No, I think that it's just kind of a consensus of the opinion across all facets of this. There are a number of folks who are very anxious to get reopened and, think that there needs to be some personal protection. And there are a number of folks who are very cautious about it. And under any circumstances, they're concerned about reopening. So it's it's the same discussion we have there that we have with everyone else. So it's interesting to hear different views.
Yeah, and again, just as a reminder, we are here as a resource for any and all county businesses. And any questions they might have about different financial resources, the programs that are out there, working with banks, these different types of questions they might be having, we're happy to help with, as well as now we are trying to be kind of a hub of information for the different requirements coming out of the state as far as masks wearing, cleaning, sanitizing, all of those type of things. As these different phases come where different businesses are able to open, you can send them to us and we will do our best to work with them on how they can best open. That will help keep everyone safe, but also, get them back open and get their revenue coming in.
Yeah, and the Reboot Seneca County committee continues to meet, and we've got some good momentum there. So, it's really reacting to the orders that we're under and how we can best facilitate safe openings of particular businesses. Those decisions are being driven in Columbus, but there's ways we can assist in getting some of the businesses back on their feet quicker. Looking down the road at restaurants and bars and those sorts of things, you almost have to anticipate that there would be some capacity limitations on them when they are given the green light. So, one of the things we should be thinking about is ways that, we can help them expand their capacity, either by using sidewalks or parking lots or alleys, so that you can keep the distance and whatnot. So, Stacy, if you'll look into the liability of allowing Renaissance to use the commissioner's parking lot, that would be.
Sounds good.
That's a good idea. I think that we really need to emphasize, at least from my view, personal responsibility here too. There was a bit of confusion with the governor's remarks. First everybody has to wear a mask, and then it's just kind of an advisory to do that. But those of us, and I am one of those, who are in that category of high risk, ought to take personal responsibility and make certain that you have the personal protection that you need and use common sense here. I mean, a lot of it boils down to that. Please be careful.
Yeah, and it's me wearing a mask as a courtesy to you is also part of it, and that's what's kind of lost. Okay, we'll do some public comments. Charlene, Jimmy, can you unmute Charlene? If anybody wants to give a public comment, if you want to drop it into the comments, Jimmy will pick you up and unmute you. And then at the end, we'll open it up for anybody who has a comment. But if you can raise your hand, that kind of keeps it more organized, and it diminishes the cacophony of sound that happens when we unmute everybody all at once. So we'll go ahead with Charlene. She's still muted. She was unmuted.
There,
All right,
can you
you're
hear me
unmuted. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I have a couple things I want to bring up. One is we would like to offer a huge congratulations and good luck to Janie Wiesner, the Village of Bloomville's clerk and treasurer. She is retiring today after a 26-year public service career. So if you happen to be in Bloomville and drive by the village office, give her a big honk. If you want to, call the office and tell her congratulations, that would be great. But we will miss her. She was a great asset to the village, and we wish her the best of luck in retirement, because she's going to have a lot of fun. So that's our first and exciting thing we wanted to share. And then second, this weekend is the big virtual census push. So we are asking everybody, if you haven't taken the census, to please get online, get your census information input. If you have done it, please make sure that you're talking to your neighbor, your family, your friend on the phone or on the internet, letting them know that the census is important and everyone counts, and they need to make sure that they get that done. Otherwise, I am good, and I hope everybody has a great weekend. Thanks.
Just on the census, very quickly, one of the concerns that we had is that a large percentage of our population live with us about 9 months, and that being Heidelberg and Tiffin University. How does all this, gone back home kind of thing, how does that affect the taking of the census here?
So at this point, it would basically be if they did the census before they went home, and if they did it from college, then they probably should have marked themselves as a college person and in our area. And that could change some numbers as well if they didn't take it before they left the college or the university. So those are good questions we can ask Rose if there's going to be something that kind of a matrix or something that's going to affect that. And I can get that question out to her and see what she has to say and get back to you on it with a little more in-depth info if that helps.
Okay. Well, it's just that in Tiffin, Ohio, it is a more than usual percentage of population. And as we had discussed, since those kids are living here more than living at home, they would be considered residents of Tiffin. It just would be very, it would be a real downer if we didn't get a good count on that population. I don't know if there's any coordination with the colleges about this or not.
I know that Audrey has been doing some coordination with colleges on the universities on taking the census for their students. So she may want to chime in here and let us know if she's had any other follow-up with them.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so there is coordination with the colleges that was happening for the census, and it has been for quite some time. So any of the students that were in student housing on the campuses, we should still be good, as that kind of runs through the university. So there's a good chance that the students that were in, student housing on campus were counted, because that again runs through a kind of specific process. And then the students that are in off-campus housing, there was also a process to try to reach out to them, and them going home does definitely pose a challenge. We hope that the push to fill out the census was successful, and that many of them did it before they left. That would be the hope. And there was, again, coordination between our local census representatives and the university service central governments, and so hopefully we think they all filled it out, and whether or not they went home, just a PSA again, they all should be still filling out Tiffin as their place of residence, no matter what is where you live 6 months of the year plus 1 day. So they all still should have filled out Tiffin. But yes, there was a lot of coordination that happened, and there are still, like Charlene said, there's going to be a big virtual push this weekend. So we hope to kind of catch any stragglers by then, but we do hope that we had a successful impact before COVID hit. So
I just can't help believe that it won't have some negative impact here in town.
Is Tom Brenbaugh on?
I'm missing. You're missing.
Is he on, Jimmy? Can you tell?
Unless it's a phone number I don't recognize, I do not see him in here.
He's got a birthday coming up. Ooh, 88 of them.
Wow.
So happy birthday.
He's a young 88.
Yeah, and he has been our moral conscience here at the commissioner's office and holds our feet to the fire and has been very loyal to the community. And so I appreciate his continued interest in civic operations of the county. So happy birthday, Tom. Other public comments. Do we have anybody else that's reached out, Jimmy?
I don't see anybody. If you want to give me the go ahead, we can unmute all the lines. And then if you're interested in saying something, just say, hey, I'd like to chat, or I'd like to comment.
Sounds good. Go ahead and unmute. Public comments. Welcome, everybody.
Might be good.
As always, you can reach out to us on social media. This will be posted, obviously, on our website. What? Okay, what do we got here?
Well, we decided to go ahead and bring little baby Claire.
Can you
Her
lift
first
up a little bit?
Yeah, her first video debut.
Aw.
That's my oldest, Emma, next to us. You say hi, Emma.
Hi, Emma.
I just think,
Happy and healthy.
Mike, you need to keep that Will Reineke away from her.
Yeah, I will. I will. That's right.
That's great.
Great idea. But thank you again for the kind words, everyone. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. We need.
Hey, it's always good to end the meeting with a baby.
That's right.
Yeah, the handshake and the baby kiss.
Yeah.
Gotta have it.
All right. As I always, reach out to us. We're here. So thank you. No further business. We are adjourned.
Thank you.